What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today when I talk to you about Opendoor, I want to go over some of the data points, break it down on what is really moving it on this fun Monday morning, and go over everything else that you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up, and with that, let's get right to it. So Opendoor is up 3.7%, 655 the low, 680 the high, and 14.2 million shares being traded. So rather low for the volume. As far as macro data, we had the Chicago Fed National Activity Index coming in at negative 0.21. That's not a big market mover, nor is pretty much anything else today. So a lot of the momentum is being carried forward from Friday. So definitely that's a positive thing. So a lot of kind of institutions have been buying, as why I even brought up on my weekend video. Big money was kind of buying like a lot of growth stocks. So that's kind of a positive thing. When it comes to this morning, we also do have JPM signaling that we should be seeing a nice end of year rally, which should continue into 2026, roughly around a 10% broad market push to around that 7,700 range. This is where a lot of growth stocks, such as even Opendoor, which have a high beta, will just kind of blow past that 10%, right? Because they tend to be a little bit more volatile than the broader market. So at the end of the day, this is where essentially you could be seeing kind of all-time highs with Opendoor. So that would be pretty epic. Today, no official news from Opendoor, no SEC filings or anything like that. Kaz is a little bit more active on social media this morning. Nothing really crazy or speculative, but he's just clearly laying it out that Opendoor is expanding and is going to continue to expand. So in this, he just says, first pick took 10 years of work without AI. Second pick took 10 weeks of work with AI. So this is obviously his focus is to utilize AI for just expansion, and clearly it is very much working. So let me know your general thoughts on that in the comments below. Aside from all of that fun stuff, you are seeing shorts roughly now increasing about 421,000 shares. So when I was preparing for this video, as you might have saw before it changed, shorts were increasing only about 3,000 shares. So the fact that it is kind of going down is largely because of shorts. So shorts, again, as I've mentioned in the past, whoever is shorting Opendoor, they know their stuff, unfortunately. They are very strategic. They know how to kind of kill momentum fast, and then they kind of just taper off and they just wash their hands. So generally, that's kind of what happens with Opendoor. So it looks like shorts are, again, increasing 421,000 shares. 14.4% of the free float is being shorted, works out to be 113 million shares overall being shorted. DTC, though, is starting to creep up. So that is sitting at 0.84 days. So kind of signals that shorts are kind of getting in at a little bit more of a faster rate. And you can kind of see that as well based on this. Nothing massively significant, but still something just to kind of keep in mind. Looking at the options, we are seeing a lot of volume. So this definitely is abnormal because normally you see what happen the volume with options kind of coincides with the common stock, but common stock we're seeing very low volume. This one is a little bit higher, but nonetheless 1.5 million in calls, 218,000 in puts, and then 52% of all the options being done today are bullish in nature. From a bull standpoint, you see a consensus for it to be roughly around that 7 to 750 by the end of the week. So definitely a lot of good optimism despite it being a shorter week, as I mentioned on my weekend video. And then the bears are anticipating for it to be sub kind of 650. So where we are at is pretty much there. So definitely a lot more upside is anticipated. These are all the transactions occurring on the secondary market above $100,000. So you see a couple of pockets of buying, a couple of sells. So it's somewhat mixed, a little bit more oriented towards the sell, but then again, some of this could be linked to shorting. Then these are all the transactions occurring on the dark pool. So it is fairly active, and you are seeing a lot of like even numbers, which usually is an indication of hedge funds. So 30,000, 20,000, 50,000. And as I mentioned, we did see some very abnormal activity on Friday after hours. So that could be a sign of maybe big institutions getting in or possibly rebalancing, because over the next week and a half, this is the end of Q4 and plus the end of 2025. So we could be seeing a lot of institutions rebalancing. So again, don't be surprised if we see some abnormal activity, but of course, I'll bring that up in future videos if something happens. And plus, even aside from that, if there's some big activity that does happen today, I could do a PM video as well. Just make sure you guys hit that thumbs up and subscribe, just so I know you guys do like the Opendoor videos. But as far as right now, with it at 658, it is trading between this R1 and this pivot. So 643 is going to be that support level. I don't know if it'll be touched today or not, but flip side, 674 is going to be that next strong target / resistance. So of course, I think shorts are trying to constantly suppress it below this R1. That's one thing as well that they generally like to do, is that they hit it hard at key pivots, whether it be linked to the fib levels or even the moving averages. So quickly going over here, you actually did have Opendoor showing a lot of signs that it was ready to massively break out. So earlier this morning, it was above that 100 and also 10-day moving averages. So of course, that's why shorts kind of brought it down, because they don't want it above that. They don't want it to break out on a technical kind of standpoint. So in general, that's one thing and a couple of key points to watch for. Based on this, you can see algorithmic trading is another big deal for Opendoor. So based on a lot of the smaller transactions, that's just simply AI. Nothing really crazy for news over the weekend. A lot of ones kind of linking about short interest, calling it a squeeze play, which it could. As I've mentioned in the past, I think in order for Opendoor to be considered a squeeze play, it needs to be, or needs to put out at least a surprise catalyst. Way too many people just shout out squeeze, 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 but they don't really understand kind of the fundamentals behind it, because stocks generally just don't squeeze by themselves. They need a catalyst. And unfortunately, I think right now Opendoor is kind of stuck in limbo. So I think, in all honesty, the next big catalyst for Opendoor is going to be their upcoming earnings, which they haven't announced the date yet. But that is where they can say F you to Wall Street, and that Kaz's kind of vision is working. I think that will be probably a good catalyst that should really knock Opendoor's short interest down a couple notches. So in my opinion, that's what it is, but hopefully it does squeeze and I'm wrong. But nonetheless, there really hasn't been that much in analyst ratings. Again, linked to their upcoming earnings, that's where most likely we'll see a rush of new ratings. So all in all, just watch for this 100-day moving average. So that is currently sitting at 664, and then that 10-day moving average is 665. So just watch for ideally Opendoor to close above that today. Let me know your general thoughts on Opendoor. Are you buying more? Are you selling? What's your kind of general thoughts on Opendoor and Kaz's big plan? One final thing, if you are looking for some solid on-point buy signals on stocks, options, crypto, definitely pop over to my stacked account. Many of them have been absolutely bangers, despite over the last month and a half, a lot of stocks and just generally the broader market going down. I've been putting out some kind of low-flying stocks that isn't on anyone's radar. And I think that's kind of the key, because if you have a big name, people tend to kind of focus on that during the bad, and they kind of let the quiet ones just slowly move on higher. So definitely pop over to the stacked account or Patreon. I have both. Link in the description below and also the comments. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.